It all began on a cold autumn night. The wind howled through the trees, and a thick layer of fog covered the empty road ahead. For years, I had heard stories about an abandoned house hidden deep inside the forest. The locals believed it was cursed. They said strange lights appeared in its windows after midnight, and anyone who entered never returned the same. I never believed those stories. To me, they were just old legends meant to scare people away. That night, I decided to find the truth for myself. With only a flashlight in my hand, I walked down the lonely road leading into the forest. Every step echoed in the silence. The deeper I went, the darker the path became. The trees blocked the moonlight, and the fog grew thicker with every passing minute. It felt as if the forest itself was watching me. After nearly 20 minutes of walking, I finally saw it. The house stood alone, surrounded by dead trees and broken fences. Its windows were dark, its walls were cracked with age, and the front gate moved slowly in the wind with a long, painful creak. It looked abandoned for decades, yet something about it felt strangely alive. I climbed the old wooden porch and reached for the rusty doorknob, but before I could touch it, the door slowly opened by itself. There was no wind, no sound, only darkness waiting inside. Every instinct told me to leave, but curiosity was stronger than fear. I switched on my flashlight and stepped inside. A long hallway stretched into the darkness. Dust covered the floor, and broken picture frames hung crooked on the walls. My footsteps echoed through the empty house, but after a few seconds I realized another set of footsteps was echoing behind mine. I stopped walking. The sound stopped. I took another step, and once again another step followed. Slow, heavy, perfectly matching my pace. I spun around and pointed my flashlight behind me, but there was nothing there. My heart raced as I tried to convince myself it was only an echo. I continued walking and noticed old family photographs hanging on the walls. Every face had been scratched away, as though someone wanted to erase every memory that had ever existed in this house. Suddenly, my flashlight flickered. Once, twice, 3 times. For one terrifying second, the light disappeared completely, and darkness swallowed everything around me. When the light returned, a tall shadow stood silently at the end of the hallway. It didn't move or speak. It simply watched me. I blinked once, and it was gone. Trying to calm myself, I noticed a staircase leading to the second floor. Every step creaked beneath my feet as I climbed. Halfway up, I heard the soft laughter of a child somewhere above me. I froze. A second later, the laughter stopped, leaving only complete silence. At the top of the stairs, a long corridor stretched before me. At the very end stood a single black door. Unlike every other door in the house, this one looked almost new. It was slightly open, and a faint whisper drifted from inside. Holding my flashlight tightly, I slowly walked toward it. Just as I reached for the handle, the whisper became clear. In a cold, quiet voice it said, "I've been waiting for you." My heart nearly stopped the moment I heard those words. The whisper sounded so close that it felt as if someone was standing right beside me. Slowly, I pushed the black door open. It creaked loudly as it revealed a small room covered in dust. In the center of the room was an old wooden chair facing the wall. There were no windows, no furniture, and no signs that anyone had lived there for years. I carefully stepped inside, shining my flashlight into every corner. Suddenly, without anyone touching it, the chair began to move. It turned slowly toward me until it was facing the doorway. No one was sitting on it. I took a step backward, and before I could react, the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening bang. The room became completely silent. I grabbed the doorknob and pulled with all my strength, but it wouldn't move. My flashlight flickered again, and for a few terrifying seconds, everything went completely black. When the light returned, I noticed fresh words written across the wall in large dark letters. They read, "You should have left." My breathing became faster as a freezing cold breath touched the back of my neck. I turned around instantly, but there was no one there. Then I heard footsteps running through the hallway outside the room. They were fast, heavy, and getting closer every second. Without warning, the door slowly unlocked by itself. I rushed into the hallway, but something was terribly wrong. The second floor no longer looked the same. The corridor had become much longer, the walls looked darker, and every picture had disappeared. At the far end of the hallway stood a little girl wearing an old white dress. Her long black hair covered her face, and she remained completely still. I called out to her, asking if she needed help. Very slowly, she lifted one hand and pointed toward the staircase. For just 1 second I looked in that direction, and when I looked back, she had vanished without making a sound. A loud knock echoed from somewhere downstairs. Then another. Then another. Each knock was louder than the last, shaking the entire house. Gathering every bit of courage I had left, I slowly walked downstairs. The front door was standing wide open. Outside, the fog had become even thicker than before. Believing this was my chance to escape, I ran as fast as I could without looking back. My heart pounded as I raced down the road, but after several minutes, I realized something impossible. The haunted house was still behind me, exactly the same distance away. No matter how far I ran, it never disappeared. It was as if the road itself refused to let me leave. Then I noticed dark figures standing silently between the trees. There were dozens of them. They didn't move, they didn't speak, they only watched me. One by one, they began stepping closer. My flashlight flickered one final time before dying completely, leaving me surrounded by darkness. I closed my eyes and started running blindly. When I finally opened them again, I was standing back inside the house, directly in front of the same black door. This time it was already open. Inside the room stood an old mirror covered in cracks. I looked at my reflection, hoping to see that everything was finally over. For a moment, nothing seemed unusual. Then, slowly, my reflection smiled. I didn't. My reflection lifted one hand and whispered, "Now, you stay." The mirror shattered with a loud crack, and a horrifying scream echoed through the entire house. Everything around me disappeared into darkness. The next morning, the local police searched the abandoned house after finding my flashlight near the entrance. They searched every room, every hallway, and every hidden corner, but they never found me. Years later, people still claim that on quiet nights they can see the faint light of a flashlight moving through the dark hallways of the house. Please don't come inside.